Hello and welcome, my dear shining being, to Sunday Live with Sylvia. It is I, Sylvia Hartman, coming to you live from beautiful Eastbourne by the sea, where the sun's just exploded, which was quite funny, given the topic we have here today, metaphomasis, because I'm here in my little home studio in my front room in my house, and normally I close the curtains because the bright sunlight interferes obviously with the studio lights. And the poor studio lights, they can't stand up against it, especially at this time of day. And I looked out the window as I came in about half an hour ago and I said, okay, there's no chance that there's going to be any bright sunshine bursting into the room today. It's a grey and rainy day. That's it. It's going to be a grey and rainy day. So I sat myself down and turned on my computer, and then the sun just burst through the window and completely blinded me. And I thought I just started laughing, because that's a classic metaphor there, isn't it? Is that we believe the sun doesn't come out, but then it did. you know, we think that stuff goes on forever and it doesn't. And sometimes, you just get a good surprise. And I thought that was really funny and a good way to start the topic of the day, which is metaphomasis. So I closed the curtains and so we're ready to go. So good morning, everybody. Good morning, Susie and Ilka and Marianne, my dear friends. Wonderful to have you here with me today for a little advanced modern energy work. I do dislike that word. We need to come up with some other way to describe this. We can't call it play, because then the people on the negative side of the modern energy chart don't take it seriously. And, just, oh no, this can't be any good. This can't be for us. This is pointless. Playing is only for children, and when you have got nothing better to do, when all the work's been done and you're really exhausted after giving your all to your job, to your family, to your house, to your status in the community, when you've given your all and everything's exhausted and there's any time left at all, then you get to play. And that's obviously of the old, because I wrote a diatribe about this on the ERG forum the other day, is that it's only when we actually start to play with things, be this concepts or crystals or other people, and get into this playful mode of exploration, that new ideas have a chance to be coming in at all. I had a person once who was struggling with music, with playing the piano. And at one point, watching them, I said to them, you're supposed to be playing the piano, not working it to death. And the person started to laugh, and that was one of those breakthrough moments. And they stopped working the piano and started playing it instead. And all their friends and relatives and customers were very grateful for that, because it was much more fun to listen to, much more, just flowing rather than this hard work all the time where you have to, it's like hitting a rock with a hammer over and over again. That's work. But there's this other state of being where we get to play instead. Good morning, Bear, and from Ireland. Hello, my darling. Oh, I so look forward to our conference presentation. I really am looking forward to that. It's going to be so good. Irish Business Woman of the Year. Woohoo! I'm going to be so honored to hear how that went and how that was. Awesome. While we're here, yes, people, it's conference time. November 13th, 14th, take the days off. It's a Saturday and a Sunday, and we're going to have some awesome fun with the concept of exploring new worlds and different ways of being. So, yeah, looking forward to that. Good morning, Carol Ann, as well. Hello, my dear. And Dieter from Germany. Hello, Dieter. Metaphor Matters. Yeah, so, where do we start with Metaphor Matters? Well, I'm just going to let my dear energy mind play and flow and have a good time this morning. Um, uh, let's see what Dieter says here. The work in playing with the energy is actually getting into playful mode. Oh, okay, part of the work, the work we have to do is to get playful, especially when it's getting serious. Oh, God, yeah, serious in that hitting rocks with a hammer kind of sense is an indication that you've lost the energy, that it's gone too hard. Everything's become too hard. And I love that. This is so the hard is my metaphor for the construct reality in which human beings live. And the fact is that the lower the energy, the harder it gets. The harder is the work, the harder is any progress, the harder it becomes to even chip a little bit off that rock you're bashing with the hammer. It becomes harder and harder and harder until it just becomes soul destroying and people freak out and throw the hammer away and run off into the wilderness. And we can understand this. When it gets too hard, something has to give. Something has to give. Yeah. But the lighter and higher and more energy rich we become, the more malleable everything becomes, the less hard it becomes, the more fluid, liquid, the more movement is in the thing, the more information is coming in. That's this thing of bringing in more energy. It means more data, more physical power, more intellectual power. The old noggins starts to spin up and the brain starts using a little bit more than just 5% of its capacity. And things become very different. I mean, our guy who's bashing the rock with a hammer might be stopping and wondering what he's doing or why, or if there isn't a better way somehow, you know, something comes into it. It becomes more, and see, that's the word playful. Look, I keep seeing these scientists on natural discovery programs. So they're out there in the Arctic annoying the whales by, hunting them and sticking sort of transponders on them. They're having the best of time. They're literally playing. They are playing with what they're doing. Somebody who's really good at maths and so on, they play with, they chuckle to themselves as they're rearranging their formula and come up with funny jokes, that only another quantum physicist would understand. At the top level of any kind of anything, you find people who are looking at this thing as a game and they're playing a game rather than fighting for their lives or, struggling or working. And that's also interesting to notice. So one of my quests is going to be to resurrect the word play and have it be, yeah, I'm going to say that, have that be vastly superior to work. Down with work, up with play. We want to play. absolutely want to play. Human beings want to play. They do. They spend a fortune on it, you know, whilst not really understanding what that actually means, playing. Ah, God, yes, I could talk about that for hours. Let's see what Ilka's saying. I believe the thing with work or play, depending on a completely missing concept. I agree. I agree. My theory, the basic theory I'm proposing in Revolution, and if you haven't read that or haven't read it recently, I invite you to have another look at it because there's a lot in that book. But my basic premise in Revolution was that it seems to me that we've got this scale and somebody cut it in the middle and threw the good part away. So all we're left with is the negative side. And that is happening everywhere in everybody's thought process. It's everywhere, that missing piece of the positive side of the scale. And when you bring that back, there is such an expansion, such a change, that we are literally in a new world. The minute that happens, we're in a different world. There is a world where all of a sudden things exist that didn't exist in the old grim, dour, hard, paradise lost, seventh circle of hell world people were in before. The place that I call the fish tank of insanity, that gave birth to the weird structures that we have inherited. It's a crazy thing. So yeah. Bear. Bear says, when my work stops being fun, I'll move on to something else. Now, heed this, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Irish Businesswoman of the Year talking. This is not some person who's living on benefits or, isn't doing anything, isn't producing anything, isn't achieving anything. This is an industry leader who says that. And see, this totally underlines what I was saying earlier. If you go to the top of the pyramid in any kind of field, no matter what the field is, whether it's archaeology or accountancy or quantum physics or business or banking, at the top of the field, you have the people who see the whole thing as a game that they can not only play, but where they can change the rules of the game, where they have a really liquid, flexible thing that they are dealing with and that they can have fun with. And that's exciting. Where one can always learn new things. That's just so interesting. Yeah, metaphor. I have promised to talk about why metaphor matters. Ha, yeah. So I'm not going to go and explain what I think a metaphor is, or perhaps just okay. Let's just start here at the beginning. I've I was used to do this thing in my head that was going into this inner world and doing things in this inner world. So there was the outer world, the hard, but then I had this inner world. And, all the children have it, but for some obscure reason, I kept mine as the boys came in and I grew up. I kept mine. And it was always just wonderful for me. And sort of round about 1990, I started exploring this thing that I was doing, whether other people could do it too. And I found they could. That was really interesting. Even if they'd never done anything quite like it, and that was even more astonishing, if they'd been in personal development, hypnosis, NLP, therapy, Gestalt, transactional analysis, I mean, you name it, transcendental meditation, if they'd been doing that sort of whole trip for, I don't know, 30 years, they still had never heard of this thing that I was describing, Project Sanctuary. and how I was doing that and what I was using it for. And that was really surprising. That was quite shocking, actually. So I thought I'll write a book about this, Project Sanctuary, because people just loved the hell out of it and really, really, really appreciated it too. And so I'll write a book about it. But before I do that, I'm going to research what everybody else has been saying about metaphor. 1 year later, my aspect was just weeping in sorrow at the horror. That's a sorrow, I guess. Weeping in sorrow at the horror of what people have said about metaphor. That's just all these words that were not just meaningless, but so wrong and so convoluted. And hardly surprising, it turns 99% of the population off when you say the word metaphor. And there were these awful things that people would do. There was this guy called David Grove who used to torture his clients with metaphors for 2.5 hours at a time until they were just a mess. It was just appalling. It was so terrible. And yeah, so my aspect went, somebody has to write this, and that's a phonological ambiguity. What I was actually thinking was write this wrong, but it goes with write that book. It's sort of one thing there. So I wrote Project Sanctuary. And then, then the internet happened, got on the mind list. And there was the day when a guy called me the Queen of Metaphor. And I just love that. That's so funny. Little mini star event there, the Queen of Metaphor. Well, yeah, I should say, I know what metaphor is. I can read and write metaphor because I understand it, because I've practiced it. I've done it in Sanctuary. I've had my experiences with communicating with the dear energy mind. I know how metaphor works. I know how metaphor works. And there came that day when I really thought that metaphor is the language of the angels. And when I said that, the language of angels, I had a little laugh because I thought, yeah, that's my metaphor for metaphor. See, the word metaphor comes, I'm sure you know, from the amphoras, which were these pots they used to have back in the day. The Greeks and the Romans had them, and probably Babylonians before them, and Egyptians. And they used to put stuff in them, like olive oil and what have you. And they were the containers of the day. So the word metaphor means container. And I'm guessing that if that had been created recently, we would be talking about container therapy or the magic of containers or something else rather than metaphor. But I always thought that's just not good enough. That doesn't really do it justice. Metaphor isn't just a container. And also it being a container, it's kind of the wrong metaphor. Because if you think in terms of a bunch of containers, and one contains wheat and one contains, I don't know, pork pies, and one contains tennis shoes, and one contains candelabras. They're all separate in their containers, right? And that's exactly what a metaphor isn't. That's exactly what metaphor is not. Oh, please excuse me. I've got a cold thing happening here. I was hoping I was going to get through it without getting a coughing fit. But there we are. Send me some antiviral energy here. So we can continue with this. So where were we? Containers, different containers with different stuff inside, all separate. A container port, you must have seen the pictures of all those colorful containers, all separate. None of the content interacts with each other. And that's not what metaphor is. Metaphor is a language where every piece, everything, just like in a spoken language in a way, every letter and every word and the spaces between them, they have to be connected up like a puzzle so that you can, make sense or make a transmission that makes sense. Everything's got to be connected. You can't have separate words in separate cartons and make a sentence. It's not possible. And metaphor's just like that. But instead of words, metaphor uses everything. Everything. It uses everything. Everything that we know and a lot that we don't know. It's an incredibly complex language. The conscious mind cannot deal with it. It can't create real metaphorical language. It can't create the language of the angels. But the energy mind does. That's what it does. That's the language the energy mind speaks. The energy mind speaks the language of the angels. And the moment I say that, you can probably conceptualize that we've got the conscious mind sort of there, and we've got the angels all the way over there, and the energy mind sits between them and translates. And isn't that a fine thing? Because the energy mind does speak the language of the angels. Ah, isn't that a wonderful thing, really, though? It really is. Metaphor's amazing. And I'm sorry that I keep using that word, but you have to somehow connect with what there is and then make a bridge and move into something better, something new, and something that makes a lot more sense. And why are people scared of metaphor? I know why they are scared of metaphor. And that comes right back to the fact that our civilizations and our people are way too stressed. They're way too stressed. Because metaphor deteriorates just like everything else does, like your immune system, your intelligence, your emotions. Metaphor deteriorates under stress. And easily put is that the crazier the metaphor, the more stressed the person who has produced this has to be. The more crazy the metaphor, the more stressed the people involved in that. And that's just the same as with anything else. You will find that stressed people, their ability to understand or speak long sentences kind of breaks down. And we get into sort of more and more garbled nonsense. And the same happens with metaphor. And then we get these weird, crazy hallucinations of things that don't make sense. Like a nightmare. Weird stuff that doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know, bears dancing around in tutus whilst a cat is playing a violin, and there's I don't know what, giant rabbits with red glowing eyes shooting television sets at a giant ant. That sort of stuff. And when that's being produced and presented to a conscious mind, and The conscious mind is supposed to make some sort of meaning out of that. All it does is it just flops over and goes, nah, don't want to have anything to do with that. That's insanity. That doesn't make any sense. There's no logic to that. That's stupid. Stop it. And you know what? That's exactly the right response. That's exactly the right response. The only meaning you find in a stressed metaphor, like what I've just described there, is that the person is stressed. That's it. Stop. That's all it is. The person is stressed. De-stress them, and metaphors start to calm down. The giant hairy dancing bears in tutus sort of begin to shrink down a little bit, and they become, I don't know what, little girls for all I know. Yeah, just little girls doing dance moms on television or something like that. When you distress people, the metaphors calm down. But then comes the beautiful thing. On the positive side of the Seuss scale, on the good side, metaphors become more and more logical, more and more, oh my God, wow. The conscious mind starts to understand them because they have become more and more harmonious, more and more aligned, more and more clear, more and more powerful. And now it all makes sense. Like a sunrise that illuminates the land that lies before you, and all of a sudden you see the whole thing, and clearly we are looking at a shining ribbon of silver river with a beautiful delta moving out into the great blue ocean, with countryside either side and mountains and hills and fields and forests, and we can see it and it makes perfect sense. And that's the thing with metaphor. Metaphor really matters because when it's not being stressed out, it tells us more about reality absolute, the real world, the really, really real world, the one that is outside any one person, the real world. It tells us more about the real world than we can figure out just with our conscious mind. And so I guess metaphor matters in that way, three ways. Three ways it matters. It matters as an indicator of stress. So when somebody brings you some kind of a crazy metaphor of some kind, politician, or somebody wants to manipulate you, or a relative, or anybody at all, turns up with some really weird, crazy metaphor thing. No, or a religion for that matter. Really crazy metaphor thing. Don't waste your time trying to figure it out. Don't waste your time. It's just stress talk. Somebody, somewhere, somewhen was very stressed and they started to garble badly. And you can ignore that. You can just say, okay, this is a stress indicator. If it's a living person you're dealing with or a client, then clearly, we don't ignore it. We focus on raising their energy, making them stronger, making them happier, because as soon as that happens, their metaphors clear up. The fog gets blown away and we see our beautiful clean landscape and we can do something with it. So that's where metaphor matters a lot. And what's also really important is that we don't get drawn into playing these weird metaphor games. So this guy with the dancing bears, right? If somebody took that seriously and thought there was some sort of amazing message in the dancing bears and starts a real analysis of the dancing bears with their tutus, ooh, what's the meaning? Where's the trauma? Where these dancing bears come from? You can go on a absolute one of those Minoan labyrinths with no escape. you're going to be wasting so much time doing so many really unpleasant things and horrible things. It's going to be really bad for you. Just don't do that. Don't do it. Don't engage with metaphors that don't make you feel good. Metaphors need to make you feel good. Even a metaphor about death and dying, when we're going into that. Okay, so we die, we decompose, the worms feed on us, and they become other creatures, and the frogs eat the worms, and then the storks eat the frogs, and so it goes on. And eventually we end up, I don't know, back with the stars themselves as a nebula, as a galaxy, become a black hole, part of all there is. Even, the most disturbing physical reality aspects, when the metaphor is clean and high in energy, they're not disturbing. They are soothing. They are calming. They are enlightening. They're uplifting. And to know that and not get involved with crazy metaphors and try to battle hordes of zombies, one at a time, because there's some sort of meaning in it. There is no meaning in the hordes of zombies. It just means that person is super stressed. That's it. Yes, and there's this other thing, metaphor matters. The best love songs of all time and the greatest words that have ever been spoken in a romantic moment or by a priest, perhaps. What are those greatest words of humanity? What are they? Are they a list of facts? Nope. What are they? They are some form of metaphor. A transmission of energy. A metaphor that has been translated into words, down into words, and has retained its power to touch another person's energy system. Metaphor is a higher form of communication, a higher level form of communication. It engages a higher form of intelligence. And when we go up on the energy chart, when we raise energy, it becomes natural to start talking in metaphor. Because ordinary, everyday linear language not good enough anymore. We've got to go into metaphor. And I think that's really quite beautiful. And it shows us that metaphor is valuable. Imagine this. Imagine you could speak to a person, and in just one sort of sentence or in one story, you could heal them, uplift them, change their lives for the better, give them a magical gift, seemingly magical, of energy that's just right for them. The power, regaining the power, the magic of words and speaking. Oh, it's just a wonderful thing. I don't know if you can sense that, but that makes me tingle. It's words can be magic. And not only that, it's not just for the chosen few who can speak magic words. It's not. It happens naturally when people become energy higher. It's a absolutely natural process. Is that this comes into being. There comes a point when the energy becomes so high that you need to express yourself in poetry. Or so it seems. You need to switch your language so it becomes the language of the angels. I think that's absolutely gorgeous and well worth knowing, well worth teaching in kindergarten how that works and encouraging that. Getting people really energy high, and they're no longer afraid, they're no longer reversed, they are no longer got all these automatic systems that stop them from talking, or stop them from speaking, or stop them from saying those words or the other words or that word, or must make sure I don't say that. And when you start talking in metaphor, you're above that, completely above that. Then you can speak freely and beautifully. On the right side of the energy chart, you can talk beautifully about everything, about the sunshine, about that sense of flying when you are in love, that you just feel you are soaring. It's just one of those things. It's a wonderful thing. Metaphor matters. It really does. Okay, guys, I've been chatting for a while here. Yeah. Okay, so metaphors. Need a new word for them as well, don't we? Need a new word for metaphor, as well as everything else. So I've got an exercise for you guys. An interesting exercise. This is from the original creative writing course, I believe. This week, when somebody says something to you, especially something that lots of people say a lot, like somebody you're living with, perhaps, or if you are on Twitter, God save your soul, you Twitter post, and you see something that annoys you, upsets you possibly, take a moment to raise energy and ask your dear energy mind for a metaphorical response. That is such a fun thing to be doing. It's just interesting to be doing. So I'll give me an example here, dear energy mind. And so some person comes along and says, I don't know. Some person comes along and says, you're completely wrong about what you said last Thursday. So rather than getting onto that same level and saying, no, I wasn't, da, 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 or, who are you to say I was wrong? You don't even know, blah, 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 blah. Getting on the same level there and fighting with this person on that level. What we want to do is just go up to the metaphor level. Ask the dear energy mind for a suggestion for a metaphor to respond to this appropriately, as far as the energy mind's idea of appropriate goes. So what you said last Thursday was wrong, this person says, and this person here is going to ask the dear energy mind for a metaphor. And the energy mind shows him a beach ball. People playing with a beach ball, volleyball on the beach. And the answer is to that, therefore, it's like playing volleyball on a summer beach. And then note what happens to the person you just said that to. Do you have the courage to do that? Now, this is the question. Do you have the courage to actually do that with a real living being? What happens when you think about doing that? Now, I know for a fact that a load of people just go, I can't do that because they think I'm crazy. Oh, yeah? Why don't you try it out? Find out for yourself. If you're afraid, always afraid that people are thinking if you say something, that people instantly think you're crazy, rather than thinking, oh my God, I'm in the presence of a prophet. I should listen more carefully to what she has to say to me in future. Why do you presume one and not the other? Why do you not presume that people hang on your every word and listen to you like they would listen to a wise person, an elder, an authority figure? Interesting little thing. So I would really invite you to play with that. And for internet communications, that gives you loads of time, doesn't it? And possibly if you are on Twitter, something like that, anonymity as well. And there's an extra level of safety to have a practice. When you see somebody writing something that you don't agree with, or you don't like it, or you feel this person needs some kind of something to evolve a little further, or de-stress or something, I don't know. Have a look at it, ask your dear energy mind to provide you with a suitable metaphor, and then send it to that person and find out what happens. Find out what happens. Just experiment. That's where we come back to where we started. Well, we don't come back to it. We've taken a turn up the spiral. We are now in a similar position, but higher. Play with your power to communicate in metaphor. Because you can. Everybody can. It's just not something that we are ever encouraged to do. And today I am encouraging. I'm giving permission. I'm going further than just giving permission. I am encouraging. I'm even challenging to play more with the language of the angels. And you see why this is important is if tomorrow an angel, a real one of those real ones, where people are instantly afraid because they're so shiny and enormous, one of them manifests in your bedroom, wouldn't it be nice if you were ready for them? Wouldn't it be nice if you at least had a rudimentary understanding of the language of the angels so you could communicate with it? Just a thought, really. It's a fascinating thing. It's language at a higher level. And I am really sorry to have to say that the entire Western world, at least for all I know, is on this stress nosedive. It was bad before, but it's worse now. They're going deeper and deeper into stress, getting crazier and crazier. And we are going the other way. We are putting miles between us here. We're going the other way. I'm now saying, yeah, we're energy high enough to have a sense that the language of the angels is out there. It's our human birthright to be speaking that fluently. And we naturally would if we were all a bit energy higher. And I believe that by doing stuff like that, like little children, they play with a toy hammer or with a toy baby to prepare for their life. What's going to happen? Toy car. So that there's a connection there from childhood onwards, looking forward, and the cars get more and more realistic, and eventually it's a real car. But you've had this long connection with the cars. From the moment you're a little tiny squirt and just went boom, 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 boom with a little toy car. And I see that our current state with the language of the angels. Let's just get started with it. Just begin now. Begin now. Don't wait until you're dead and you're in some afterlife and everybody's speaking the language of the angels and you don't understand it. And you get all stressed out. That'd be a shame, wouldn't it? Yeah, okay, so got some happy people here. Amazing live stream. Blown away. Absolutely love it. Oh, I'm glad. Yeah. Language of the angels. Go. Linda says, your words are magic to my ears. Very inspiring to my creative energy mind this morning. Thank you so much. Yes, I do hope some among you will take up that challenge and have a go and come up with a metaphorical response to somebody saying something and practice that a little bit. Very good fun. And in and of itself, guiding ourselves and our minds and ask for more. Ask for more from our beautiful minds. We can do more. I think we should be encouraged to do more, to think more, to feel more, to achieve more, to live more, to love more. More. More's better in the energy worlds. Much, much better. Okay, guys. So thank you so much for being with me today. It's my favorite topic. That's my favorite thing, really. Project Sanctuary and Supermind is my original favorite thing and really helps people, and it's a wonderful thing. So I'm glad I speak the language of the angels. In case an angel turns up and says something to me, broadcasts something to me, and I'll at least have a basic understanding of what it is, what's happening, and how to respond, so that we can have finally a communication with the angel. Not just listening to them, giving us good news, and it's this one-way street where they're telling us something, and we sit there frozen and quiet, because I don't think that's what the angels want. I think they want us to respond. They want to have a communication. I want to have a communication. Because then we get together, we might get into a couple bubble, and both of us will learn something from this, and it'll be wonderful. Okay. Yeah, I like that. It's very... Oh, thank you very much, dear Ilka. I'm so appreciative that you're here with me. I was going for that one. Our mission, if we choose to accept this, is to use our words to pollinate. Yeah, stimulate. Absolutely. If nobody's ever heard anybody speak the language of the angels, how are they supposed to even know it's there? Or, it needs to be around. We need to do it more. There needs to be more language of angels out there. That's quite fun. Okay. Marianne says, have a great start into a wonderful week full of love, light, laughter, and miracles. Thank you very much for your Sunday blessing, dear Marianne. I accept it and let it fall upon me like a royal cloak. And hoodie. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Much love and happiness to everyone. And a week full of angelic extra sparkle. Absolutely. Fine bright light shall shine upon us. Love it. Thank you very much for being with me. Congratulations if you are new and you made it all the way to the end. Hope you enjoyed it. There's wonderful things in the worlds of modern energy. And remember to come and join our conference on November 13th, 14th for discovering all sorts of amazing new worlds with our beautiful presenters from all around this world. Lots of love to you, and see you again next week for Sunday Live with Sylvia. Bye for now.